my mind, and I'm like, wow, yes,
This meeting is being recorded.
So so it had chicken in it. Yes.
That's the one. Funny.
Nice to meet you, Christina.
Nice to meet you too.
Who would you like to pass it to, Christina?
Let's pass it to Ahmad, because I remember his name and I have it on my screen.
Okay, yeah. And I start with A, so I'm in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, so let's see. The strangest food I had, the food itself wasn't strange, but the ingredients were. So I had a pizza that seemed like it was normal, but then inside of it, there were like 5 different kinds of cheeses. So there was like goat cheese and buffalo cheese and like cheese from a bunch of different animals, and it tasted really strange. And and I didn't find out until after I ordered it and I already ate it, or I like tried to eat part of it, and it turns out that it was like a special that that restaurant did. I'm not sure where it's from. It was like a weird like fusion restaurant that served pizza, and they like had this weird like dish that combined like cheese from all over the world, and it like it just tasted a bit weird. That's the strangest one off the top of my head, even though like it seemed like it would be normal, but yeah, it was a bit odd. Cool, let me pass it to Melody.
Okay, if chicken and cheese are the weirdest thing you had, then you obviously haven't been to China or any other places. So the weirdest thing I had in China, obviously, is the silkworm cocoons. And they're still alive when you cook them. So it's like warm in the cocoon shape, and you fry them. So someone gave us the raw thing to our home, and my dad was like, it worked up a lot of courage to cook them because they're still moving. And yeah, it was a little bit like eating worms, but it was okay. It was crispy and nice. And I had crickets before, but this one is a little bit extreme. Yeah. Oh, and Melody, and I'm also part of the Connect group. Yeah, so I'm gonna pass it on to Ben.
Hey, can you all hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, different setup. I'd have to say Rocky Mountain oysters. If you know what that is, cow testicles. But yeah,
I'm from Calgary, by the way.
Oh,
yeah,
now I get it.
Yep, they're not bad. Kind of taste like chicken, but yeah. I'll pass to Jesse.
Hi everyone. Well, I have like a weird story that happens to me related to food, and it's that, well, I'm original from Venezuela, and then I moved to Argentina like 6 years ago. And here the people in Argentina, when they eat something for breakfast that is called like media luna, or it's called facturas. But it's really funny because the word facturas in English is invoice. That means for us in Venezuela, it is an invoice. So when I first came here, like my past boss told me like, hey, do you want some facturas? Like, you want some invoice? So I was so confused because then they actually offered me food. So I was really confused, but I was afraid to ask. And then when I realized that word is used for like a really yummy pastry or breakfast, and it's the same, it's a different, I mean, same language, but different meanings about the word. So it was kind of funny. And well, yeah. And so I will pass it to Simon.
Hi everyone, I'm Simon, and I've been part of just contributing to Giveth for a couple of weeks now. Yeah, I was also trying to think what's the craziest food that I had, and I don't think that it's as crazy, but so maybe I have to be a bit more adventurous. But in Portugal, they do have a a sausage. I know that they've got something similar in the UK, but it's called morsella, and it's made from it's like a blood sausage. And that's, I haven't really had a lot of adventurous sausages like that, but that is one that I had in a stew, and it was all mixed and was all very delicious. And then I was, whoa, what is this? What is this made of? And then someone told me that it was the coagulated blood, and the process of making it. And I can't remember exactly what it was, but it wasn't pleasant to think of whilst you were eating it. But yeah, that's probably the weirdest thing that I've had to eat. But I haven't traveled to many exotic countries yet, so I need to do that, listening to all of the interesting things that you guys are coming out with. Okay, so I'm going to pass to Mohammed.
Okay, so I'm actually not brave to try anything so weird, but I can say that whatever I tried before and I thought it was weird, I think it's not weird at all comparing to what Melody was trying. And so I can say all the things that I eat before was totally normal compared to what Melody shared. So I think I pass it to Oki Avellaneda. I don't know if I say it right.
You were close. It's Avellaneda Cruz. Hi everyone. I'm Oki. I'm a loose contributor to the working group, and the weirdest food is really more of like a brand new flavor palette that my brain had to create like new connections around. I was in above the Arctic Circle in Alaska on a photo assignment, and I was visiting like 7 different villages, and I had a plate of freshly caught sheefish that we caught from traveling through the river with beef jerky, or it wouldn't be beef jerky, but beaver jerky and seal oil. It was actually really delicious. It was just like a whole new flavor palette I'd never had. And I'm gonna pass it to Tossini.
Hi everybody. So let's see. My weirdest food. It's not really a weird food. It's considered a staple, at least in West Africa. It's called pepper soup. Now, pepper soup is actually really, really great. It's prepared with you have a lot of chili peppers, so it's very, very spicy. So chili pepper with nutmegs and other spices, and then you have meat, most especially chicken or goat or fish, or a combination of all 3. So apparently it's actually really nice. But now the weird part was this: we had somebody come over from, I think, UK. So our boards were not really made for so spicy food. So I think the first time she took pepper soup, like she had to drink water. She drank, let's say, over a liter, just taking 1 spoon. So it's really messed up space board, but a tongue board rather. So a taste board, so am I saying. So now I think she wanted to make up for that. I think she was actually really a very adventurous kind of person. So she wanted to learn how to prepare the pepper soup. So she got the ingredient, told her, I don't know where she got the recipe from, and then she tried preparing us. So yeah, we decided to taste it. But now the problem is this: when you're adding spicy pepper, chili pepper to that, you're meant to cook them actually. But I think because it was too spicy for her, so she got the impression that you do not need to cook them. So she didn't cook them. She just blended different kinds of pepper together, and then I tasted it, and it was the worst thing I've ever eaten. So we didn't want to actually make her feel bad. So yeah, we had to eat it like that, raw chili peppers. So yeah, it was an experience I never want to try again. So I'm passing to who hasn't gone? Jesse.
I think Jesse's gone, right?
Jesse's been.
Yeah.
How about Arena?
Yeah, I can take it. So I don't eat meat anymore. So the weirdest stuff that I've eaten is back when I was still eating meat. I think the weirdest thing is actually something that I had in Ecuador, which is cuy, which some of you will know if you live in Ecuador, which is guinea pig. That was really new to me, that is an edible, dish. And it tasted a bit like chicken, but it looked really weird on a plate, at least for European eyes. Lauren, hi Lauren, great to have you here. We're talking about the weirdest food that we've eaten in our life.
Hey, Rainer. Cool. Yeah, I think weirdest food that I've eaten in my life, I mean, the grossest thing I remember eating was like sea urchin. Sea urchin was so gross. I went to this like super fancy Japanese restaurant and it like got this plate of sushi that was like, I don't know, like $200. It was like crazy, very expensive, super fancy. And like the sea urchin really tasted like garbage to me. And I don't know if it was like that weird or crazy, but it was disgusting. I'll pass it to Griff.
Yeah, I've definitely eaten lots of disgusting things. It's kind of a toss-up between pickled pig's lips. I don't know what kind of lips they were. And that was in like outside New Orleans. And just in Thailand, like I think they have it in Chiang Mai, but the time when I went dumb with it was in Khao San Road in Bangkok, where they just have this like just a stand full of bugs, just like scorpions, tarantulas, frogs, and all the crickets and all the worms and stuff that you could think of. And I just had one of everything. And the worst was actually the frog. The frog was by far the grossest, and who knows how old the stuff was. But I'll pass it. I don't know who to pass it to. I'll just pass it to Rainer.
Who hasn't gone yet? Help me.
Ashley.
Ashley. Hi, Ashley.
Hey. Oh my God, Griff. I don't know. I think that's like the top of the list of the weirdest things. But while I was in Egypt, I did eat stuffed pigeon. That was awfully weird. And I had milk made from cheese made from camel milk. And I ate camel while I was there. So that wasn't too long ago. And I've eaten some weird things before that, but recently that's the weirdest things I've been eating. Pass it to Nicola.
Oh my God, guys, this is so much fun. Oh my God, my experiences are so boring in compare with yours. Well, the only weird thing that just comes to my mind, what you just said, is this fruit. It's called snake fruit. It's this weird fruit that's here in Costa Rica. And it looks like a 3D teardrop, and it's all covered by, it looks like literally like a snake skin. So it feels like you're touching a snake. And then it has this very unique sweet and sour taste, and you like it or not. Oh my God, that reminded me noni, which smells like a blue cheese, and it's this fruit that grows here. It's supposed to be very good for you, but it smells and tastes so terrible. So that would be my experience. Who didn't go yet? The last one? Seems like it.
I think you're the last, Nicola.
Okay, so should I take over, Claire?
Yeah, go for it, Rainer.
So welcome to our second strategy workshop for the Giveth Connect group. We'll start on the Miro board that we're going to use also a little bit today. Melody is sharing her screen, which I guess is better anyway for people who join from cars, as I've seen, and probably from mobile devices, so that you can at least see the parts where we're moving. But those of you who are in front of an actual computer will be able to participate with just adding stuff on the board. So today we have 3 goals. One is we'd like to have more of a joint picture of what makes a good project for you. We'd love to you to hear some of the limitations to Giveth adoption that we hear in the sector, and some ideas from us how we might want to deal with them. And it would be fantastic if at the end of this session we, as the Connect group, has a better understanding who to focus on when attracting new projects. So we're going to start with a few questions around projects. We're going to give you from the group a few insights and conclusions that or recommendations that come from our side that we can discuss. Then we'd love to have a little bit of an input about what is actually impact. And we talk about this sort of all the time, but it's a pretty difficult, fuzzy concept. Maybe it's helpful to have a quick input on that, and then talk about next steps. So for those of you who are new, either to this group or to Giveth overall, I'll give a quick recap what the Connect group is. So the Connect group is the group within Giveth that is aimed to be the bridge between the public goods sector, the Web3 public goods sector, and the general public goods sector, the more conventional non-profit philanthropy public good world, to address some of the biases, the misinformation, have a higher learning curve for them, and that relates to a couple of different issues. For example, we would like to work on how we can create some kind of reputation system to help curate and verify projects better on our side. We'd like to reach out to donors and projects more systematically. We'd like to make accessibility better for non-technical, non-Web3 native users of the platform. We'd like to outreach more in the sort of traditional social media like Facebook and LinkedIn. We would like to give a bit more logistics support for onboarding and off-ramping for projects that have not been born in the Web3 world. And we'd also, and that's a bit more abstract, maybe we want to make sure that Giveth does not reproduce the problematic patterns from the conventional giving or nonprofit or public goods sector that we've seen over many years, but that it essentially transcends them. So this is who we are. I think we have more members now than are in this list. It's a little bit outdated, but this is sort of stewards are Melody, Claire, and me. And we're doing a sort of a series of strategy workshops with many of you to understand better where you are as a team and how we can best connect what we see here and what the ideas of impact are in Giveth with the sort of more conventional sector out there, where I think there's a lot of potential, but I think a lot of bridging needs to be done. And the first strategy session that we've done was around 4 weeks ago. You see the documentation of it at the top in this Miro board. There's also a recording of it if you'd like to have sort of the full details of it. A couple of the takeaways that we've had was, so we, just for those of you who were not there, we went through the so-called theory of change. So we made a first stab at looking collectively at what is the actual vision of Giveth, who are we trying to reach out to maybe make change, what's the kind of things that we want to offer them, what do we expect in terms of outputs, and what do we essentially expect in terms of impacts, to get a first approximation of where are the different answers that come from Giveth and where might we want to look at in more depth over time. And what we've seen is that there is a diversity of opinion what Giveth wants to achieve eventually. So it's the kind of answers that you get from different people in the team is it's a mixture of systemic change around public goods and being a donation platform and everything in between in different sort of shades of gray. We also seen in the first strategy session that there are different definitions of public goods. That's also something that we might want to look at some point to maybe get a little bit more precision or different categories of what we actually mean by that. We also saw that going forward, there is a need for us in the Connect group to focus on the individual parts together with you, to focus on individual parts or steps of the theory of change one by one. So I think it makes most sense to pick a focus topic for the upcoming strategy sessions and see if we can sort of drill down into some of these aspects. And that's actually what we're doing today, because one of the questions that was out there also was, or one of the conclusions was, there are really diverse opinions on the kinds of projects that Giveth should focus on. And so maybe taking a step back, one of the really important things for Giveth now is how to bring in more donors to the platform. And I think there are a couple of things that bring donors to the platform. Givebacks surely is one of them, right? Or the prospect of being part of the gig economy is surely one of them. Or having this promise of there's no fee, right? Whatever you donate goes like directly and one by one to the project. But we also think great projects is one piece, is one thing that attracts donors to the platform. And that's the thing that we would like to focus on in the session today. To really drill down with you, what makes a good project? What could we do to attract more projects with the hypothesis that having really good projects helps to get more donors. And with that, I'd like to hand over so that we can start with a couple of questions around projects for you.
Great. So now the real warm-up starts, which means that you really have to start thinking and give me answers. For those of you who haven't got the link is in the chat. If you can, please go to it. And if you don't know how to use the Miro board, you basically you can add stickies from clicking on the sticky here and add one, or you can actually, I've got stickies on this right-hand side where you can grab them and put them on the board as well. Like I prepared like 10 participants, but we have a lot of people. So I say Rainer, myself, Claire, we also brainstorm, but let's not take one of the spots, just like on the side or something. And the rest of you, we're gonna give you 5 minutes heads down time to answer these questions one by one. So pick a spot, like number 1, number 2, whatever, and then answer these questions to the best that you can. And we'll give you 5 minutes heads down individual working time. And then we'll go into group discussions, I think breakout discussions. Oh, by the way, I really want to say something about the weird food. I think a lot of the weird food tastes like chicken. So if you have chicken, it's probably something else. Anyways, that's all I want to say. Yeah, so you could also change the number to your name if you want to. If you don't want to, you can just put ideas onto it anonymously. But grab a spot there and then answer the questions. I'm going to set the timer now to 5 minutes. Okay. Oh, so be specific about the projects. So especially the first question, I think Griff, you just made an example of yourself and what not to do. So don't give me categories. Like if you can pick any project in the world, what could that project be? It could be something where like I just had a new client who's PETA, and it could be, I'm a vegan, it's PETA, I want them to be on Giveth, So one specific project, please. And then the second question is really about, think about that one specific project that you really want to be on this platform. And why do you want to? Why do you like that project? What qualities of that project that you like, that you want them to be on this platform? And then pushing forward to the third question is really about the criteria for a perfect project. So give me a specific example of a perfect project that exists.
Could it be more than one, or like just start with one for now?
Start with one.
Okay.
Should I add some background music, Melanie?
You want background music? I can. Stop time.
I can also add one.
Oh, okay. I can do it from the Miro, but why don't you add?
No, I can't while you're sharing your screen.
Oh, you can't?
Can you send the link again? Also, please.
Oh, Kodabi. Yay. You're here. Yes, I will send the link to the Miro. There.
So Melanie, if you put like that music.
You say perfect project, but what do you mean when you're saying perfect project? Like something that we're personally connected to that we would like to see succeed? Or like an example of a successful project for Giveth's branding or like platform?
If there's no like restrictions on projects and all the projects want to be on Giveth, what project is the one that you want the most of all the projects in the world? So like, like a organization that you admire, but maybe they're not on Giveth right now, maybe they are not the best fit or they can't for some reason, that kind of thing. Or it could be a project that's already on the list. Yeah. So grab a spot, or for those of you who can't grab a spot, you can tell me and I will write for you. Like you can probably chat with me and I can put that on the board for you. So grab a sticky instead of a comment. So you could grab a sticky from on the side here. Oh, sorry, these stickies are at the back. So let me just put them screen to front. You can now grab them. Sorry about that.
I am on my phone, so I think that I cannot grab many things.
Yeah, why don't you tell me if you want me to add something to the board?
Okay.
Or you do you want to chat with me? You can chat with me separately.
Yeah, feel free to write it in the chat.
Yeah, like everyone can see as well. Yeah, say tell me question, like answer to the first question, answer to the second. So Christina, are you here on the board? If you're here, you can navigate to this spot where we have these brainstorming project section. And let me know if you can't navigate, okay? So one of the ways is that you can actually look at this map here and trying to go to this really long stretchy thing. What's happening? Okay, 1 minute left. You still have time in your discussion as well. So don't be too rushed about it. "38 seconds. Yeah, some of you also clicked on the gray area, then you can type directly. Okay, time's up. So now we're going to pair you up and into groups of twos. So Rainer will assign you to groups of twos and you can discuss with each other and focus on the last question of your discussion and coming up with more criteria or, like, and talk to the other person and see if they have the same idea with you or different ideas. Okay, so we're going to do 6 minutes of that. Rainer, are you ready to assign people into group of twos? Okay.
Hey, Jessie.
Hi. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks. And you?
Well, I'm fine. I'm recording the call.
Cool. No problem. So Melody was saying that we need to discuss what our answers were.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was not sorry concentrating in the meeting because I was doing another things. So would you mind saying what is the activity?
So the activity that we were filling in on the Miro board was one where we needed to answer these 3 questions. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
So we each were filling in column to answer these questions. So which project or initiative do you know that you'd like to see on Giveth? Why do you like the project? And what are your criteria for the perfect project that you'd want to see on Giveth? Okay. I haven't really reviewed any others, but the ones that I had put in were mostly, you know, I know more about the South African organizations because I'm originally from there. Okay. But I just put in here some of the organizations that I think would be probably not connected to Giveth or even on, well, they're definitely not, I know because I haven't seen them there, but they also wouldn't really be thinking of accepting crypto or putting themselves onto a platform where they would be able to get crypto. They may not even be thinking about it.
Yeah. So sorry, so what we all need to do is to basically both of us suggest like answer for these questions together, or
well, I think that we were just going to discuss our answers. Yes, so maybe you can let me know if there's ones that you would add here, like what organizations do you know of that could benefit from Giveth?
Yeah, well, I know an organization called Thrive for Good, right? That organization is a non-profit based in Canada. So basically they teach how can they actually like make their own food, gardening. So gardening their own food, like of course vegetables and fruits. So basically they have like an online program where they teach people in Africa how to basically be a gardener. And so maybe that organization can be like
what was it called? Because I'm going to put here Simon and Jessie.
It's
so what was it called? Thrive.
Thrive for Good. I just type it on our chat.
Okay, cool. Thrive for Good. Okay, cool.
Yeah, basically they teach people in Africa, not just kids, but people in general, how to be a gardener, so they will able to create their own food.
Cool. Okay. So let me see what this next question was. Why do you like that project?
Yeah, well, I really like that project because you can actually teach them online. So they can also save some cost, because sometimes some time of the year they actually travel to to Africa, but they can save some cost teaching them online. And of course they have like a big results on the people, like actually teaching them to basically create their own food. And they also creates that the community, is together, because they actually work together, so create bonds between the community.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. Some of the reasons that I put for the other charities was that I know that that all of them have a need for consistent income. They all do address a big need at the moment. So here was the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, and I volunteered there, and I know that they've got calls coming in all the time, 24/7, basically, for people that just want to speak to someone. And that's a big problem with the mental health in South Africa. Animal welfare, SPCA is a big animal welfare that needs transparency. And then SOS Africa Education Project, because education, just like with the Thrive for Good, it's just teaching people. That's really the key of how to benefit that generation.
Exactly.
Then the last bit was, what are your criteria for a perfect project that you'd want to have on Giveth? Ooh, we've got a few seconds left. Okay, so I'll just mention what I had put there if I can find it. Might run out of time, but I said ones that are already scaling, reach a lot of
From breakout rooms, they always have a smile on their face because they're probably just in a very pleasant conversation with the other partner. Okay, great. So so the purpose of this obviously is to finding that flagship positioning, flagship project that could immediately position Giveth. And we want to really, before we share some insights from our research and other things, we want you to think about this and then share with everyone what are your criteria for that flagship projects that we can, when we talk to other people, Giveth, and a charity or not charity is a group of people, and people immediately get it, right? Wow, this is Giveth. This is what Giveth is all about. So do we want to share some of the criteria that we have come up with? And we'll summarize this afterwards as well, which is good. Anybody wants to talk about what they have talked with their partners?
I'll share. JC and I were on a call together, and we were talking about the charities needing ideally be scalable already and really affecting a lot of people's lives. It was difficult with the organizations of ones we knew about were ones that were just from our personal point of view. So for me, it was from South Africa. But there's still some large organizations like SADAG, the Depression and Anxiety Group. I knew that because I volunteered there for a while, but I knew that there was a massive need, and this affects the mental health of the country. If we were able to fund that or get them onto the platform, it would affect a lot of people's lives, because those people phoning in have families, it all has a ripple effect. With the animal welfare groups, I've listed there some smaller ones that I'm aware of, but actually the SPCA is one of the larger ones, though I don't know whether they would be open to having transparency, but that was also one of the needs, one of the reasons why I thought maybe there would be a good organization to encourage to be part of the platform, because it encourages that transparency. And there's a large hesitance of people donating because people can't see what the impact is, and they wonder if the money is going to the animals that need it. So yeah, those that need consistent income and are scalable, two of the big reasons.
Yeah, perfect. And charity water, Ahmad.
Yeah, so we didn't really talk about that as much, but we did talk about what the criteria is that we think would make a good project. And the main thing is that crypto people would want to donate to it. And I mean, I'm sure most of us here donate to some project that's not on Giveth. So I think that would be a good place to start, is just see what are all of us currently donating to, and just like making sure those are listed on Giveth. And then after that, checking with our existing network of donors and, listing all of the projects that they want to have listed. So yeah, I think our approach is more, focus on like the short term, just making sure that all of the stuff that we already want to donate to is listed for the crypto audience.
Oh, who did you talk with? Who was in the same room?
Griff, yeah.
Griff.
So me and
Oh,
Griff,
okay.
yeah.
You're here,
So
Griff.
like we talked about his project that he listed under his column. So like this is one, it's like a German UBI kind of a project. And someone, yeah, like one of his contacts said that they would donate $500,000 to it if we could list it on Giveth. So like that would be like a really easy thing to do, I think.
Great. And I just want to quickly talk about like who put Extinction Rebellion?
Oh, that was me. This is Oki.
Yeah, you put Extinction Rebellion and tell us
Oh,
more.
I'm sorry. Nope. I'm sorry. Someone else.
It was Griff.
Oh, it's Griff? Okay, great.
Can
projects are edgy, I see that. And
Yeah.
and radical, bring attention. Yeah, I just want to point it out because somebody else also had Extinction Rebellion. And I put an IUCN specialist group because I know them. There are scientists who work together, but they are not funded. So what I was thinking in my logic is that Giveth is for groups that are not formally nonprofit, but they do have really big impact, just like Simone that you have said. There are some smaller groups that you know that have really big impact and, you know, like a game changer in the conservation space. And also they're so global in nature, funding across border is actually very important and fits their pain point. Anybody else wants to share the criteria?
So I have started to note down the criteria that we're hearing in the little green post-it notes here.
Yeah.
So I heard transparency, I heard impact, I heard crypto affinity, I heard popular with current donors, which means us or people that we know already. Engaged community, scalable, and something around grassroots, edgy, activist kind of vibe.
Yeah, I do like, Oki, what you have said, the indigenous approach, which is like more of a community-based approach to it. So definitely grassroots, community-based. Okay, great.
It's actually a nice fit with some of the insights that we've gathered, right?
Yeah. So I think that leads, that leads really nicely. Like this is just like food for thoughts and into our next step discussions and sharing of what we have learned. And so I think Claire.
I just want to ask something based on that.
Yes.
This exercise. Is there a central place where we would be able to list some of the charities that come to mind, or is that what's going to happen after the?
That could be a really cool next step.
Yeah.
After the session. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, let's just put it down as the next step. And even if it's a Google Doc, we could create that immediately. Or for all of these, actually, the Miro, I can download them already and put it on the spreadsheet. So like a database that has these projects that people want to donate to from the community.
Can I recommend something for that when we get to launching that?
Yeah.
Cool.
We can also include something on the site that's a recommendation. I know that previously Ashley and I chatted about that, or we chatted about it in one of the group meetings, and approaching the organizations did have a few barriers, but when we get to that, we can always discuss different approaches and maybe more qualifying criteria so that we reduce the barriers, if that's how we're going to get the projects onboarded.
I think that's connected to some of the insights and recommendations.
That's right.
Claire, do you want to go ahead with the recommendations or with the?
Actually, I think it's me again.
Yeah, yes. You start with the first one.
I'm sharing first. Yeah, so in the past couple of months, I've been just really active in like talking with other nonprofits, either from a kind of conference speech or like panel discussions, or just basically talking within the nonprofit community. And one of the insights, obviously, I found also through our research is that the key success factor for other donation platforms, including crypto platforms, is for the platform to actively support projects on their own fundraising. So this is really important because other platform they kind of have this understanding that the projects will bring fundraising, and if they just sign up and not do anything, it's not gonna bring them any money. So therefore, they have lots of resources as well to help projects. And this, just on this one, this insight number one, another kind of related insight is that in past probably 6 months, there are all of a sudden a lot of crypto platforms, especially traditional platforms that becoming crypto capable is huge. One example is Canada Helps, which has all the nonprofits in Canada, and they have just become crypto enabled, which means that you can actually donate crypto on Canada Helps to any nonprofits in Canada. This happens also in the US with every.org, as well as US, like there's so many like for-profit solutions as well. So that's the insight number one that we have kind of drawn as a conclusion from our research, which I think is very informing from a competitive landscape, as well as from a, like how they draw donors to their platform is through the projects. The insight number two is that donors typically do not care about deep impact analysis of projects. So we're talking about what we call annual donors, like donors with small amounts, let's say, like obviously big amount donors would care more. That this kind of affinity with your costs will increase with the amount of donations they give. However, as Giveth does not require charity status for projects, they need something else that guarantees that at least some level of impact is achieved. So they still do care about impacts. So an activity is not the same as impact. So impact is really, measured by what is being done in the real world, and it's not measured by the activities. I think here, when you wrote it down, Rainer, it means the activities on the platform. So the donor's motivation really comes from one, impact, two, something that's personally related to them. So like a community projects that they know. And three, something that actually help the earth, help everybody. So those three are the top three motivations in the traditional philanthropy space, which I think should also apply to this space as well. So I'll hand it over to Claire for insight number three. If you have any comment, please interact and make that comments, or if you want to do it anonymously, you can put a sticky on there.
Okay. Well, another thing that we found, which brings us on to our third insight, is that most public goods projects or not-for-profits, at this point, Web3 and DeFi is too complex for them. But as Melody just touched on, many are waking up to crypto. And we can see this by the massive growth in crypto giving platforms. I even came across one that accepts crypto alongside fiat in Burundi recently. And the volume of the crypto donations, particularly in the US, but also around the world. Also, another point to note is that there are larger than average gift sizes of donations made in crypto, and the potential to raise significant funds makes crypto fundraising interesting as an extra stream of funds for most nonprofits. But I think it's important to say that most projects fundraising with crypto currently, their main aim is to convert the crypto funds into fiat to be channeled straight back into their project as soon as possible. And very few of them at this stage would consider holding crypto as an investment. And I would say even many are scared of the risk of a dip in value. They are not particularly interested in tokenomics at this stage. But something else we noticed, and it brings us on to our point number 4, the projects that do become interested in DeFi, particularly if they can't use the regular banking system or charity infrastructure. They might have a weak banking system, no charitable status in their country, cross-border giving might be an issue. There may be problems within government, political reasons, corruption, and potentially no incorporation. But we did find, and I think perhaps some of the comments that were made for the ideal flagship kind of projects that we were just discussing, we did find that they are intrinsically motivated to experiment with DeFi if they are particularly community-based, or they have this sort of edgy anarchist spirit, or they are already Web3 native. And I suppose these 3 points probably don't come as a surprise to most of us. We did also think that an insight number 5 on the board, a lot of these points would probably apply to donors as well, particularly from the standpoint of institutional donors.
Yeah, with this one, I just want to add institutional donors we're more talking about the DAOs who are making grants. And also, I think an example of a weak banking infrastructure or any kind of infrastructure is that we have, for example, we have recently talked to a South African school who basically told us there's no other platform that serves South Africa. And they're so happy to hear that there is one. So philanthropic system that is not perfect, like the US, the America, and Canada, and the UK, let's say, these 3 top ones, and Europe, EU, those are huge opportunities for Giveth because then you don't have these perfect systems and people's needs are not being met. While in the other ones, the ones that I've just mentioned, the nonprofits' needs are being met by multiple giving platforms, and they are designed, the products are designed even more sophisticated to meet those needs. So that's really important for us to understand that, you know, the differentiating factor. And that's why we put the country specific on there.
And it was interesting talking to that school in South Africa. I'm glad you brought that up because they actually had a donor base in the US and in the UK. And at the particular time, they weren't able to access their donations very easily. So Giveth gave them the opportunity to go cross-border in that way.
And they're willing to experiment. That's another thing that we found really a trait that we really like, is that they don't really care too much about, oh, like my board's not going to agree, I have to change my gift acceptance policy, which is the case for a lot of the nonprofits that exist in perfect philanthropic systems, where you have more regulatory requirements, you have more, you know, like people and committees to go through. So that was also our learning for sure. That's really interesting. Rainer, you have anything to add?
I would move to the sort of conclusions and recommendations. That's okay with you?
Yeah, and anybody who have comments at this point? Realizations, comments?
So we were trying to draw 2 conclusions from this, and these are hypothetical, right? They're here to discuss. Since practically 90% of all the projects and donors in the sort of conventional public goods sector out there are off the table for now, I think, for Giveth, because it's just too complicated. One question could be, could Giveth, at least for now, focus entirely on 3 niches? One would be focusing on countries that have no mature charity system outside of the UK or the US or in the global South, where there's an actual pain because they cannot go through the sort of official, legal, and financial infrastructure. Second niche, go to the ones that are crypto native anyway, that are not afraid of using DeFi and actually understand what DeFi can maybe make it interesting for them beyond just accepting crypto. And third, sort of the anarchist community-based projects that have the kind of vibe for it, but also have a community they can activate and that might be interested in sort of long-term creating a microeconomy. And that could result in a bit of a different kind of messaging to the outside world, to maybe talk more about the giving platform for, I don't know, misfits, activists, grassroots movements, because right now the communication of Giveth is very broad. It's very across the board. And I'm wondering if that's realistic at this point to address this kind of market with that kind of language. And it might be interesting to focus on these three niches and see what kind of platform you can build for them, and then see that broader adoption might follow over time. There's an analogy that came to my mind. I don't know how many of you know M-Pesa, this system where you can transfer money from one mobile phone to another in Tanzania, right? In Kenya. When they came out with it, they were like, oh, wow, you can send money from one cell phone to another cell phone. And Europeans and US citizens, they were like, we don't care, right? Because we have a functioning banking system. Why should we do that? So it was completely unattractive to the sort of mature banking or the bank system, right? And so it started in a different part of the world, and it sort of picked up and was fantastic. And at some point, it was taken over or picked up in other countries as well that saw the advantages of doing it. So there was actual innovation going on because there was a pain that was not really felt in more sort of mature markets. And maybe something like this could happen here, where long-term, of course, we have a really broad mission here. But at the same time, maybe it might be smart to start in these sort of smaller niches to actually get traction. And then the second sort of idea, conclusion, hypothesis could be maybe Giveth could really try to get a few high-profile initiatives with proven impact on board to really advertise them as flagship projects. For example, Extinction Rebellion or the Good Lobby, organizations that are a bit more well-known, but that are quite edgy and not the typical big tankers in the nonprofit world. Because right now we did a bit of analysis. Maybe you can unhide the little data at the shade at the bottom, Melody. Right now, Giveth doesn't really have a lot of impressive flagship projects. There's a very small group of projects that has received significant donations. Quite a number of them are sort of internal, so they were started by people on the team. And those that have significant sort of donations, I think they are, in terms of the communication that they have, they're not very solid in showing their actual impact. So I think there's a bit of a reputation risk right now to go out and say, these are the top 3 projects of Giveth. They might not hold up in certain circles. And it might be interesting to approach organizations that have a certain track record and get them on board and show, look, this is the kind of stuff that we really want to support. And at the same time, Giveth right now does not have, I think, an impressive number of micro donations for small projects. It's not that we have 1,000 projects that get like $5,000 or so. I think the first 10 or 20 projects have above the $3,000. And then there's a very long tail with projects that have a very small amount of donations. So it might be good to maybe concentrate on the flagship projects and get them on board and see what you can do with them on a sort of on a communicative level and maybe prove more of reputation. Again, these are ideas, hypotheses that we sort of deduce from the insights that we have, and we'd love to sort of give you 10 minutes or so now to think about how do the insights resonate with you? What do you think about the conclusions, recommendations? Take your time, think through it, put some sticky notes, you think. I would suggest that we do these 10 minutes and then have a 5-minute break so that we can come back at maybe 20 past 6 or so, and then have a longer discussion about where you think this leaves us. I'll put the questions in the chat for.
Yeah, I'm also interested to know, knowing these insights, is your idea of that perfect project have changed? Did that insights inform you of something that have changed your mind somehow or not? That could be also interesting.
Feel free to switch off your camera if you'd like to feel more on your own. And I'll help you with timing a little bit before we go into the break. But please take your time, read through the stuff, and see what resonates with you.
Rainer, is this a group discussion or breakout discussion or no?
Let's give a few minutes of individual time.
I assumed that we were supposed to put down sticky notes or something.
Yes, exactly. Take your time to think about it yourself and put sticky notes, and then we'll have a break and then we'll come back. Okay, let's give ourselves 2 more minutes and then have a 5-minute break. Maybe I can clarify one possible misunderstanding. There are a couple of comments on this statement. This excludes almost all public good projects out there, and with Insight 4. So what's meant here is most of the public good projects out there do neither fall in group A or B here. Most of the sort of conventional public good projects that sort of conventional philanthropic activities around has the problems in category A or has the intrinsic motivation around Web3. That's the way it's meant. It's not meant to consciously exclude projects or something like that. Okay, see you back in 5 minutes. And we're gonna have a discussion. I'll play some music meantime. Okay, so let's come back. Discuss what we see. If you're here, please switch on your camera so that we can see that you're actually back. Thank you. Okay, maybe let's start with the insights. So is this a fair analysis of what we see out there? Feel free to just raise your hand or your Zoom hand, whatever. Griff?
I think it's a pretty fair analysis. I think most of the insights are like dead on. Yeah, I think you already mentioned that excludes almost all public goods out there being like not, I think it excludes a lot of conventional projects that we know about, but I don't think it excludes all the for good projects out there. I would say the conventional projects are a small minority of the actual like movements in the world. And but other than that, I think pretty much everything is, the insights are dead on. And as far as the conclusions, the only one I would be I would be afraid of is focusing on the global south, mostly because the onboarding lift would be so high. And for crypto native and anarchist projects, the lift, it's like high. I think A, B, and C are all high impact. Like they want what we have, but B and C are also lower effort, and A is high effort. And I really like conclusion 2. I think if we could find a couple of flagship projects, that would help us a lot in marketing. I think that we should start with the donors and not with the projects though. Getting a flagship project up there isn't a flagship project if they don't get any donations.
So I'm not sure if I got the last point. So you said the way to get flagship projects would be through donors?
Yeah, like for instance, Martin Koppelman, like this UBI project in Germany, it's not like an ideal flagship project, but Martin says he wants to give $500,000 to it. And that means it will raise $500,000, you know, like it's not, if we get Extinction and Rebellion up there and they raise $1,000, it doesn't become a flagship project.
Why do you think that Martin wants to go through Giveth? Because he could easily donate this huge one-time transaction just to directly to a wallet of the project.
The Givebacks program, of course.
Is that what he said? That's his motivation? I'm just trying to understand, you know.
He didn't say, but I'll connect you to him so you could ask him more directly, but and in German. But
yeah.
but I have to assume, because I've noticed that he made a few test donations the last couple rounds, so he was playing with it. And he also tweeted, he's also made some tweets about Giveth and the Givebacks program.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. I'd love to hear what others think. Do you want to go first, or do you want to ask someone?
I want to just
respond.
First? I want to respond to Griff about your comment about projects don't bring donors, because that's not what we are seeing in other successful platforms. The other successful platforms and projects that we have recently talked about, they have donors. They have alumni like the school in UK and US, and they could give cryptos, but they don't know how to do it, because them being in South Africa, there's no platform that serves that country. However, the nonprofits who are already in the US and receiving crypto, it's really difficult for them for switch right now, because with the Giving Block, they don't have their own wallets. So if they need to switch, then they all of a sudden need a whole bunch of different kind of hoops to jump over. That's what I found anyways by talking to them. They're really interested. But the thing is that all of a sudden they have to manage their own cash room. They all of a sudden have to get their own wallets. So it's a different question because of the competitive landscape now as well. Like all of these vendors who are serving those needs in the US, Canada, UK, that what we mean by perfect philanthropic system. If they're on board with one platform, it's hard to get them off to go to another. So,
but on that, just to respond, I think it's a lot easier to get them on if someone says, hey, I want to donate to them on Giveth because of the Givebacks program, and I'll give them $100,000. I think that they would switch.
So the major giving program is important. You're talking about those major givings, like, so usually GoFundMe, all of these giving platform is, we're talking about two types of donors. One is the annual givers, which are like, I'm giving you like $50 every year. And this is different, completely different strategy. And if smaller projects don't go out there and fundraise, which is what I do, like I tell them, I just have onboarded a new client for myself, which is PETA Germany. PETA Germany has 60,000 donors, 60,000 annual donors. It's like amazing. I think they're all vegans or whatever, but you know, like those are the ones that they can bring. Obviously, there are probably some crypto donors in there, but major giving strategy is a completely different thing. We can talk about that. That's a completely different strategy for sure. Yeah.
So I'd like to hear a few more voices.
Yeah.
Lauren. You're muted, Lauren.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, sometimes it's hard for me to find the mute button because I was just doing too many other windows. Yeah, I had a couple of, well, like jumping off points. I mean, I was thinking after Griff's comment, I mean, he was saying he didn't like the concept of focusing on the global south, but actually I do sort of like this because so many of our projects on Giveth right now are like coming out of Costa Rica, because Danny is such a Giveth maxi, and she's like really like spreading the word to projects here on the ground about like what Giveth is doing, getting people really excited about it. And I think it's like a really awesome kind of like we can kind of see like those efforts put in practice on the ground by like the work that Danny's doing in Costa Rica. And if we could like expand that, like we were just in Ecuador and I would like meet people and automatically assume that they knew what Giveth was. I was like, yeah, I work with Giveth. Like, obviously you know what that is, because in Costa Rica everybody does, and then it's like, but a lot of people didn't. And there's a lot of people who are doing like awesome public goods projects like within their local communities, and I think it's kind of like something that we could really help with. Yeah, and that like that people, those projects would be like really interested in using Giveth to raise funds. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, yeah, I mean, if we're working with like flagship projects, I think something we could really do, like as the Connect Working Group with support from comms, is like create a really clear list of like what we say, like what projects can say to their donors that explains Giveth in like tweet format. You know, it's like peer-to-peer giving, no intermediaries, zero fees, like these kind of like buzzwordy things that they can use kind of like as advertising points to just make it like, we give them like a template, and then projects have like a really easy way of like communicating what this is to their donors. And also it'll help us in communicating even to like the projects, yeah, what Giveth is all about. But otherwise, I mean, I really liked the concepts and the insights overall. I mean, I like the conclusions. I like getting, like, I like focusing our audience. I like focusing on like anarchist, radical kind of like alternative kinds of public goods projects, because I really think like those are the projects that are gonna kind of like stick with us on like the long-term vision of like becoming DAOs and like creating new funding structures that aren't like, you know, by the book and like the way it's always done. People are like really attached to tradition. I think it's like a detriment. But anyway, I won't ramble on forever so other people have a chance to speak as well. And I'll just stop there, pass it back to Melody or Rainer, I don't know, or whoever wants to speak.
Thanks, Lauren. So who else? Something on their mind? Okay.
I mean, I can give some feedback. I think that I agree that the insights are also pretty spot on and the conclusions look good. I like having some like flagship projects that could represent Giveth. Also, do you agree that if we are a donor-owned platform that we should be focusing on donors? And I do disagree that the projects are necessarily what brings the donors. It's like the economic games that we're building behind the projects and on the platform is what I think is really going to bring the donors, the give backs, the utility of the Give token, what they can do with the Give token after they receive them for donating, how can we keep them engaged after they donate, like this type of thing. So I see that's the only thing that like really comes up with me for me that hasn't already been shared by somebody else.
Thank you. Okay, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I want to echo what Lauren was saying, that for me, I feel like the sweet spot is the Global South, just for me personally, because I'm from Colombia. I actually reached out to a project out there to specifically get them on Giveth and start to really utilize what I know from Web3, but also starting to bridge things that are just regenerative. And for me, I think the part that kind of comes up is I still don't know from the Giveth side if I'm contributing to a platform or if I'm supporting the projects, because one of the conclusions you came up with, which is supporting the projects themselves, is like a very natural place for me to come from. And I don't mind doing the high touch one-on-one work. I just need to know kind of the path to the trajectory where I'm going. And that's the part I'm still trying to piece out, which is why I keep looping back into Giveth and figuring it out as I go.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
So just on Oki's point, maybe, and Melody's point of the projects being a good pull for donors as well. Maybe that's where the well-known groups come in, you know, the well-known organizations. If we could still focus on the South, because I have seen that a lot of the UK and the US large organizations that are already accepting crypto are doing so through platforms similar to Giveth. I don't think that they are, I don't know whether there's rewards involved, and I still do think that if there's a chance, even if they're accepting crypto and they're not using a similar platform, we should approach them and say, you know, your donors could be rewarded to take advantage of the fact that they're already accepting crypto. But focusing on the well-known it'll be recognizable for people to more easily convert. Sorry to use that awful word, but it'll be easier for them to become donors. And yeah, I think that was my only point, was just focusing. And that's, I also do like the focusing on the smaller guys, but I do think that that's going to be a lot of work. And we should, if we're going to prioritize, it should be well-known, maybe 70 or 80% in the South, but still having some in the North that we focus on that aren't already using a similar platform. And maybe we work out the split like that.
Thank you. I'd like to direct to Griff again. I'd really love to test this hypothesis of yours, that to go through the donors, because I think there are cases out there. I think my gut feeling would say that there are 2 points here, maybe around the sort of the donor approaching through donors approach. One, I think these are rare cases. I think there are not that many cases where you have an individual that says, I want to give $500,000 to a specific project, and that then becomes the incentive to actually onboard a project. And secondly, after that one-off huge transaction has happened, the question is, what incentives should the project have to keep engaged on the platform, right? I mean, for example, if Martin Köppelmann gives $500,000 to the German UBI project, it would be fantastic, right? That transaction would happen. But after that, a German registered charity has zero pain working with the fiat system and through the normal banking charity system. So they have no other incentive to ever do anything on Giveth again. Whereas if you're in the Global South, or if you're more in the misfits, anarchist, community, grassroots category, you have a constant pain because you don't fit in with the normal structures, and the tax law doesn't work out for you, and so on, right? So there's a constant sort of incentive for you to remain on board. So I think, you know, these two things don't exclude each other, but I'm wondering how much is actually going to go long-term through that channel that you're suggesting. You can certainly kickstart some of it, but I guess we need a mixed strategy. Ahmad.
Yeah,
sorry.
I think we want to make sure that when we have this large donor, that we can have some kind of, you know, I don't know, follow up, that we keep them engaged, that we can try to keep the project engaged and see what we can do. Like, hey, if they have this one large crypto donor, they might, oh, I still have my hand raised. Sorry about that. They might have other crypto donors too. And so we need to help them a little bit advertise on Twitter and say their success and support them to further on. Because I think if we have one strong signal that's that strong, there's likely other crypto people who would also follow up.
Yeah, that's an interesting hypothesis. I mean, let's try it, right? I guess we need to experiment with both. But I think it's really not either or, right? Ahmad.
Yeah, I was gonna say something similar. Like, I don't think it's either or. And in a way, it could be like a barbell strategy where, like, on one side, we're focusing on these, you know, one-to-one, high profile, large amounts. And then on the other side, it's people that have a strong on the ground community and they're raising money on the ground and we're like a perfect fit for them. I guess like one thing to think about is all of the ones that are in the middle, I guess, are they just like a waste of time? Like, should we not focus on normal nonprofits since they have a lot of other like places where they could raise money on? And I guess like that's something that we might want to think about is, are there projects that are not worth our time maybe?
I guess that was my point with insight number 4. I think 95% of all the projects out there are not worth our time. Because Giveth is just not attractive to them. It's too complicated, they have other options. They're interested in crypto, but not in DeFi, right?
But
any other voices? Simon?
Not being, just a question, so not being interested in the DeFi, but be interested in accepting crypto would mean that they're not of interest to us. I know ideally we would help them become DAOs and become more transparent, but is that what you're saying? Just so I understand.
That would be the hypothesis, right? Sorry,
sorry, Rainer, it's not a hypothesis. It is a fact. I've talked to people who are interested in crypto. They're very excited about the idea of Giveth, but they're already on board with the Giving block, and they're already receiving pretty good crypto donations through the Giving block, and that is enough for them. They're not interested in moving forwards, as in owning their own wallets and looking into the DeFi playground at this point. But they are intrigued by the givebacks. The conversion is really difficult once they're already on board.
For them, it's analogous to fundraising for legacies or real estate, you know? They look into all kinds of asset classes, and now there's a new asset class, which is crypto, another thing that can be converted into fiat. But they're not interested in the sort of inherent qualities that crypto could give them through, for example, you know, give economy or DeFi. And I think we shouldn't even message to these, right? It's a waste of time.
And I have to say, maybe this not yet. I mean, like I want to think that Giveth is ahead of its time. Like when people actually are used to it and everything. I don't know. That is a hypothesis for sure. But not.
Yeah, that would also be my message, right? I mean, Giveth is like 10 years ahead, right? And those that really need it will come on board, and those that are really understand the potential of it, they will also come. And then there are those in between who do neither, and then, you know, it's just
I don't know that I would say like the projects are a waste of our time, but maybe not to target those audiences, you know, just like don't really put our biggest effort in those areas. But of course, anybody can still create a project. We can still do crowdfunding. You can, you know, you can still enter crypto this way. And I mean, Giveth was a huge gateway for me, even just as an individual, to learn about the crypto world. And so I think that there is lots of potentials out there and people can use it what's beneficial for them, and we can still be there to help them to learn and be interested, but yeah, maybe not targeting those audiences.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction. I think it's, it's one thing who do we allow and support if they ask, and who do we proactively approach and say, we'd like to offer you a support package because I think it's really important for you to be on this platform, something like that.
But wouldn't introducing them to the platform and I'm just playing devil's advocate here because I do agree, but wouldn't introducing them to the platform be the first step and considering that we are early in terms of the global market, wouldn't this be the first step, them accepting crypto, and then eventually they would understand DeFi more, and then they would understand the benefits of becoming a DAO,
Melody, would you like to answer?
I would like to answer that just by saying the products of Giveth is quite different from other products, which are really hand-holding for the nonprofits and introducing them to crypto. As in, you don't need to own your wallet, you don't need to understand that, you get fiat in the end, so you don't have to go through that process. So the product fit is a little bit different. So the Giveth product do not fulfill those pains of the nonprofit right now. So the pains right now is that, how do I accept crypto? How do I convince my board? How do I manage this fund when I get it? And for example, a product like the Giving Block, make it easy. So the projects in those perfect philanthropic systems, they already have a product that fulfill their need. So we need to find what projects that Giveth is fitting, right?
Okay, cool.
I mean, to be honest, what Giveth has to offer is quite complicated. It's a quite complicated offer. And I think for most organizations out there, you're trying to solve a problem that they don't have, or that they don't see that they might have one day. And maybe the strategy could be, right, to work with these 3 niches, and in 5 years or so, there is a critical mass of projects on the platform that come through these 3 niches, and the conventional projects will hear from many different corners at the same time that Giveth really opens a new world to them, and then they're going to come on board. Hypothesis, right? We don't know, but let's start with the more low-hanging fruit, and that seems to be these 3 niches. So we were planning to talk a little bit about impact, but I think it's probably more worthwhile to have a bit more time to talk about what results from this session, what could be interesting next steps, and maybe we can talk in one of the follow-up strategy sessions about how to actually measure or even ask projects to document their impact. Maybe that's for next chapter then. So Melody, should we step into the next step part? Let's see what we take with us from this session.
Just gonna share this.
Griff, I also haven't forgotten that you said when it comes to listing favorite projects, you have a suggestion how to do that. So
I'm put in the Discord, in the Connect working group.
Okay, but is it worth mentioning here? Now that
Sure. It's a token log. So it'd be nice if Give token holders could prioritize the issues. So, if like anytime we want to onboard a project, anyone can just put it in a GitHub repo. I know GitHub's not the most friendly thing, but it does flow with our prioritization strategies in general with ZenHub and stuff. So we could make a repo of projects to onboard, and then we could create a token log. And token log is this platform that allows you to use tokens to prioritize issues. And then the Give token could be used to bump projects to the top.
Oh, okay. If you could put some information on that in the Discord, that would be great, so that we could read up on it and understand how best to implement that. Token log is the name.
Yeah, and there was just a vote with the common stack that used it, and
yeah, cool.
I could have it set up in 2 hours.
Right. So I really
sorry, Melody, go ahead.
No, it's okay. I just want to say I really like the people who turned out today. because you're all like from different functions of Giveth, from different perspectives. So after this discussion, I would like to know what do you think is the next step, either for the Giveth Connect group to work on or for yourself. Yeah, if we can just take a few minutes for that. So there's a few questions. How do we get access to the right niches that we have talked about? Which networks or platform do exist that we could use to get onto these niches? What is the implications for external messaging of Giveth? Are we like wanting actually to intentionally create some differentiating messaging? Who else should be in the future strategy sessions as well? So if you want to think about these questions and how that affect your work and also our work as a Connect group, that'd be great.
How much time would you like to give Melody for answering
Let's
these
do
questions?
5 minutes.
Are you going to set the timer?
Yeah.
On the Miro board? Okay.
Great. If you have more ideas, you can come back here, and then we can organize it to see what kind of tasks that we could do. For example, I'm seeing create a survey that we can send out existing donors on what projects want us to list. That is already on the forum post that we're proposing. And also like what we can do and what we can help others do, like messaging, communications, or other things. Yeah, so let me pass on to Claire for a checkout, maybe. Rainer, do you have any comment on the next steps?
So I see that there are lots of ideas where to go to, who to go through to get to projects. I think it would be our job in the Connect group to sort of summarize this and see which of these networks are accessible to us already because we come from that space. Which of them are more in your hands because it's more, crypto native networks, and which are just sort of structural suggestions like listing favorite projects or listing favorite projects of donors that we could take in our hands and then see who in the organization would be the best person to do that. But I think that would be now our homework to do that. When it comes to implications for external messaging of Giveth, I see some ideas around actively messaging about Giveth for the misfits and large events like East Barcelona. I think this is something that we should discuss with the comms colleagues, right, to see how does that fit into what they were planning anyway? How does that fit into your sort of plans of what to do next? So maybe, quick question, who do you think would be the best person to talk to after this on the comms side? Any suggestions?
It's probably me.
Yeah. Okay. So let's put our heads together and see what follows from that.
Sure.
Cool. And then the third question would be, who else should be in these future strategy sessions here? Does anybody come to mind where you think they should have been here today, or they should be in these kinds of conversations really urgently?
I definitely thought about Willie a couple times during this call. Would have been nice to have Willie here.
And I think Danny and Mitch would also be both really helpful, and plus one on Willie.
I think Willie was here last time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we invited Willie and
Danny.
Mitch and Danny, and they probably just have something that they couldn't get away from.
Anything else where we have a blind spot, or any one that we don't see?
That as the Connect group as a whole, I feel like kind of has a disconnect in general from a lot of the other working groups. So maybe establishing some links, and I know like we're listed on there, Ahmad and I, as like the liaison between Connect working group and some of the other working groups, but maybe finding some connections like within governance, because it seems like some of these are decisions that are affecting the whole organization and should be like talked about maybe in governance as well, or some things like this, and maybe just forming some better connections from the Connect working group to the greater parts of Giveth.
Yeah, good point. Mm-hmm. Any other ideas around that? Around this third question?
Yeah, not necessarily an additional idea, but just to Ashley's point, I guess a lot of the members of our group came in as new people to Giveth all at the same time. So I think it's a really good point you've just made, Ashley, that to build some better links with the rest of the Giveth organization.
Well, and I know I'm a main one of those links, and I've been out of the picture here for a few weeks, quite a while. So now that I've been back, yeah, I'm like, man, we need to connect some of these things more. So I'm back and I'm here. So let me know how I can help support you guys.
I think we will also need your help to understand which of these decisions sort of cross the threshold for, votings have to be discussed in the DAO. Sometimes it's not entirely clear. So intuitively to us, what's the, what's sort of the threshold, or what's the sandbox in which we can play, and when do we have to just talk to others about it? Thank you so much. Claire, do you want to do checkout?
Yeah, I think maybe some additional questions just to follow on from what you were just saying, Rainer. I think what generally do people think about the process that we followed today? Does this work for you? Would you like to make any recommendations or suggestions for any future sessions? And in addition, what do you think about the topic of the next strategy session, if we have one? Any ideas? What would you like to focus on?
Sima?
I think it might be nice to go into comms. We've touched on it a bit here, and as Ashley was speaking about having more of a connect, you know, we've got a weekly comms meeting. Maybe if there's no overlaps, then someone from the connect group could sit in on them sometimes, because at the moment we're busy. We've done that strategy. We've done a strategy that's still a work in progress. And now we're busy doing the content. So this is just such a connection that it's important, you know, that we're all on the same page. If there's a chance, I think that would be the most efficient. Then at least someone from the Connect group would be able to see what does the full kind of portfolio look like, because there we discuss the different channels, even what channels we can make more active. And then, so if we can focus on comms, and then, yeah, that would be the biggest thing, because in our comms, we speak to both donors and projects at the moment. And maybe that needs to be tweaked.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Simone. Would anybody else
I
like?
heard you guys talked earlier about, I heard somebody mention maybe talking about how we require projects to show some sort of impact or evidence of activity within their projects, like moving forward. And this is a big topic for me personally right now with project verification. It'll probably be our next big move. Mandatory updates, this kind of thing that we had talked about before, but to actually, like, I'm putting together a spec document. So are these calls something that you guys usually do monthly? Has that been the average?
We've had 2 so far, and yes, they've been a month apart. But if there is, if people generally feel like they'd like to do more of these kind of sessions, we could organise another one for a month's time. Do you think, Rainer?
What would be the best timeline for you, Ashley? Is a month too late? Should we do it like earlier because you're in the middle of preparing something already?
I feel like a month is kind of pushing it to at least start implementing some of the things, but maybe that's not something that I need Connect group for. But it is always nice to have more insight and more feedback on things. And I remember the last forum post kind of opened up like a can of worms. So maybe I could come with something a little bit more formatted, a little bit more strategic, and we can collaborate on something. But if it's not a strategy call like this, maybe it's just a call between us or a verification party. We can talk about it in there or something like this. It doesn't have to be one of these calls, just something that came up in my head whenever you asked.
I mean, we could think about doing something like this around the topic of impact in, I don't know, 2 weeks or so. Let's see if we can find a slot. Would that help you, Ashley?
Yeah, I think that can be helpful. Let's see. Just looking at.
Yeah, I mean, we can do this scheduling maybe afterwards.
3rd week of June, maybe 3rd week of June, sometime in there.
3rd week of June would be the week of the 30th, the 13th, or the week of the 20th?
I'm looking at, yeah, like the week of the 20th. Or if it's at the end of the week of the one before that, that would be fine. The beginning of that week starting the 13th is kind of busy, but I don't want to take everybody's, I mean, I don't want everybody to sit here while we schedule a call, so we can figure this out later.
But I think we have
talk
sort of
about it in
we have a bit of a rough window now. Okay.
Yeah.
So somewhere between 15th and 23rd, something like that.
Cool.
Okay. Does anybody else want to say anything before we wrap this up? We've hit 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock my time, I should say. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for your ideas or your input. Thanks for coming. It's really good to
Thanks,
share.
everyone.
Thank you so
Session
much.
really-
This has been really valuable.
Nice to
It's really
see you.
helpful.
Yeah,
Nice to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thanks,
If
guys.
you come in
Have a great
late, you
day.
can
Yeah.
still
Thank you.
contribute.